about repurposing on Pinterest. So this is going to be an exciting show. I know a lot of us, kind of struggle with what to do for content, but we've got some cool going to share with you today. And so, speaking of repurposing, I like to start these with a little question. So I'm gonna do a little question, that I like to come up with these. So this is the thing. So like, let us know down below what your answer is. But if you call out unique product features on your text overlay or on your title or your description, you can have what percentage brand awareness lift if you do that on Pinterest? Is it 3%? Is it 10%? Or is it 25%? So once again, if you call out a unique product feature when you're creating your pin on your text overlay, your title, or your description, you can have what percentage brand awareness lift? Is it 3%, 10%, or 25%? Let us know down below, because inquiring minds want to know. And you can't play, Elisa, because I actually stole this question from one of your emails. So. Yeah, how are you doing today?
I don't remember the answer, so I could play.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't admit that. No,
so,
I don't.
Let us know down below. If you guys do me a favor, as we go along today, if we say something really super smart, and let other people know about this show. I won't be me, but it'll be Elisa. But let us know, and sprinkle the love across the interwebs. And if you are watching this, you go, oh my gosh, my pal Sally really should hear this. Call her in, even if it's on the replay. So it's
Sally's probably already here.
Sally Howe is probably here. She is always here.
Awesome.
So want to do some shout outs to we have Tina saying, looking forward to hearing from you. I hope you still feel that way after the show, Tina. I'm sure you will.
Right.
And will this be available afterwards? Yes, this is always a replay. You can always find it here or on our YouTube channel. So yeah, repurposing. By the way, speaking of repurposing, one of the easiest ways to repurpose content is if you have someplace to start. And luckily for us, we have a place to start. We have the brand spanking new December templates, right?
Yes.
And you can find those at bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit. That's where you can get those templates. They're awesome. Go check them out.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Kier did a great job, and you can find them not only there, but also inside Tailwind Create. They're not all there yet because they just came out yesterday, the December ones, but my personal favorites, the first one, which has like a little evergreen thing on it, and then the fourth one, which it's like light blue with snowflake background, and it's so pretty. So I asked Tucker, I said, is there any chance you could get just a couple of these in here? So yeah, a couple of them are in there for December, and then the rest will be up Monday, but you can go grab them right now.
Yeah. So we do have some, I asked the question, about brand lift, what percentage, what it is. So we've got some answers here. Okay. Let me get all my ducks in a row. I've got too many buttons pressed.
Ducks in there today?
There's ducks in the computer. It's very distracting. So let's see here. Let's see. So we've got some great answers.
Somebody's here from Barcelona, I saw.
Yes. Okay. Annette says 10%. Carrie says 10%. Michael says a whopping 25%. Shelly says hi from, we have from some people from Barcelona, have people from Oregon. Cool. Very, very cool. The answer is, most of you were correct, was 10% for adding that. So you forgot that, Elisa? That's pretty shocking. Yeah, so
I did. I know.
You get a 10% lift for just calling out something about the product in the text overlay, in the title or description. So that's cool. That was brand spanking new from your email that you sent out yesterday. So
wow, good for me.
It's like a goldfish. Well, yeah. Forget what you did.
Well, what's really cool about that is 97% of searches on Pinterest are unbranded. So, I mean, the opportunity to build your brand awareness on there is exceptional anyway. So, just up it by 10%.
So let's talk about that, because one of the things, because you got that stat because you put a link to it. If you didn't see the email from Elisa yesterday, go back and look in your inbox, because that's where I got that stat from, because she pulled it from a Pinterest webinar and she linked to that inside of there. And one of the things I want to talk about when you're talking about that branding is they I fast forwarded this part. They really talk about to brand it, but do it tastefully. And there's a big difference between tastefully and not tastefully.
Yes.
That branding, it can be nice and subtle, but also be very, very, you can do a good job, but you don't want to just have your logo covering up the whole image, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And if your logo doesn't look good on pins, use your URL instead, right? That still builds your branding. Because I know some people, like, they've lost their original logo file and all they have is a JPEG with all the white around it. And it can it can really detract from the look of your pins. Be much better off with a URL or even the name of your site, but I think a URL is better.
So here's a great question for branding, and this kind of goes right back to your thing. This is from Michael. He says this, he goes, do you recommend a text overlay or an actual logo? Like, is it better to like, put your URL, or should you have your logo? So should I put like mainly Pinterest tips, or should I have my logo on there? What do you think is better?
I think it depends on which looks better, right? So if your mainly Pinterest tips logo looks great, cool, use that. But if you won't be able to see it, like if we took a screenshot of you right now and we put your logo on top of that image, you probably wouldn't see it. It would blend in. So in that case, you'd want to use like a lighter text for your URL.
Gotcha. So thank you, Carrie, for dropping in. Once again, we do have those. Somebody was asking for the URL one more time. If you want to grab those free templates, go to bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit, all lowercase, all smashed together, because you guys got to use these resources. Now, listen to me. Please listen to me. This is a starting spot. You shouldn't just replace your text or your image. Use it to start the creation process. You want to change it up so you don't look like every other Pinterest user out there. You want to make it your own. So remember, these are a great place to start. But if you're like me and sometimes the blank page is a little intimidating, you want to make sure that you go check these out, because they are really, really awesome. And being able that they're write and create, holy cow, that's an awesome, easy way to start. Easy. That's just amazing.
Yeah. So if you want to use them, you can just filter and look for, I think it's Tailwind Toolkit template. Yeah. So there are little filter options to kind of narrow it down. Yeah. So I know you wanted to talk about like where those come from, but should we talk? Okay. So we have 3 things we want to talk about today, Jeff.
Right. Okay.
We've got repurposing. We've got fresh pins, and we have the December trends and templates. So which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about fresh pins, because that's kind of a continuation of what we talked about last time with our guest. And so there was some confusing. So Elisa, why don't you take that away? Because I know there's a lot of misconceptions of what was said and what, we're supposed to do. And people get like, listen, I hear you guys. I do not like change. I mean, I've had the same haircut.
Really?
I don't shave. So I don't like change. So it's hard to, and this is a big departure of way, if you've been doing Pinterest from the very beginning, you have to kind of, step back a little bit, and it's getting harder everywhere. And Pinterest is the same thing. So why don't you take it away and get us started, maybe with some misconceptions, and then, explain what fresh pins are.
All right, so I just shared in the comments a link to a SlideShare presentation. So I just thought maybe the easiest way for people to see it is to kind of visualize it. So FAQ about Pinterest and fresh pins. And there was a lot of confusion. So one of the big questions we got, and there were hundreds and hundreds of comments to answer after that Facebook Live, and I got to as many as I could, but at some point, you have to stop. So does everything I share to Pinterest have to be brand new, as in a brand new image and URL? What do you think, Jeff?
No.
Correct.
See?
Yeah. Okay, so all other things being equal, Pinterest states that a brand new URL with a brand new image is the most desirable kind of content that you can share. Okay, that's what Pinterest says. But resharing content in moderation can still drive traffic. It does still drive traffic. New URLs should drive the most. And again, that's all other things being equal. So if you're publishing 5 blog posts a day in order to take advantage of a bump from fresh pins, and they're not like your best quality, that's going to hurt you, and you'd probably be better off just kind of reframing something else and sharing it again. But that's what they're telling us they want. So if you feel like, well, that's not what I'm doing, and I'm not being spammy, and what I'm doing is working, then, you know, you do
Right.
what works, right?
Right.
Yeah. But
So
all we can tell you is what Pinterest is saying that they want.
right. So if you could every time you post something on Pinterest, the best thing you could do is have something that would have a brand new URL. But
Yeah.
for most of us, that is not something we can do. And so
No, it's not possible or
repinning
practical.
other things in the correct way is okay to do. It's not going to hurt us, is what I'm hearing.
Right. And we'll kind of get into
Okay.
kind of the rightish ways to do that. So then again, to kind of reiterating, can I only share a pin once? What do you think, Jeff?
No, you cannot.
No.
Right.
No. So you can share a pin to a few relevant boards to give Pinterest more context into what your content is about. So Pinterest looks at the board title, the description, and other content on that board to determine what is this content and how should we distribute it in search.
Can I talk about that for a little quick for a minute?
Yeah.
The importance
Sure.
of that, because this is a great time to do sitting on the couch watching Frosty the Snowman again with the kids or grandkids. You can work on your Pinterest account, and so I think, and I know I'm speaking from experience. A lot of times I didn't optimize my board title, or maybe my description is really lacking. We have 500 characters in there that we can use to send these signals to Pinterest. Now, we don't want to keyword stuff or not make it make it
Right.
look ugly or whatever. But if you're a lot like me, there's some work that can be done on some of these things. And so,
Sure.
it used to be able that you could go in and tell on the boards, what category it is. You don't even have that anymore when you
Nope.
create a new board. So
Can't
Pinterest is relying
edit
on that.
them either, yeah.
Yeah, so Pinterest is relying on your board title and your description to, help with the algorithm and all the magic it does behind the scenes. So it's really
Yeah.
important to spend some time on those boards and descriptions, and because that's where they're getting that information from. So anyway, sorry, I
Yeah.
digress, but you go ahead.
No, no problem. And I'm glad you did, because Pinterest has said up to 10 relevant boards, and they don't normally or usually give us numbers like that,
Right.
but they did this time. So I would definitely take that to heart. And the point there, as always, is this going to be a good experience for pinners, right? Is this too much? If it's not relevant to the board, you're not going to help yourself. All you're going to do is hurt your potential exposure in the search results. So just don't do it.
And you should pin to your the best relevant board first, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the most relevant. So like the most specific to this particular pin. And then if you have like an all my blog posts board, that does not really give Pinterest a signal about it. If you want to save it there, it's fine, but that shouldn't be the first board.
So can we go into some questions we've already got from people, because I think this
Okay.
is good. So
Yeah.
and I feel these people's pain. So Yvonne has this question. She goes, if you're selling an item, it's hard to create a new URL each time, though. And I don't think we're saying that specifically.
No. And there was something that I think people got confused about too. Like, okay, so should I take my blog post and duplicate it to make a new URL? No, absolutely not. Like, that is not what we're talking about. Google doesn't like that. Pinterest wouldn't like that. Users definitely wouldn't like it. And really, that's the key. Like, is this useful to the user? To create duplicate URLs just for the sake of it is not useful.
So, like for Shireen says this for products, is it okay to post different pics that point to that product? I'm so happy because I was confused and frustrated about hearing they want a new URL. So,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have Shopify stores or Etsy stores, and they have multiple shots of like a piece of jewelry. Is it okay for them to pin those pins that go back to that same URL? Are they going to get hurt?
Yeah. Absolutely, it's good. So that was kind of the next question. Is it bad to create new images for existing content? Or this would be the same. Is it wrong to share more than one image that goes to a post? And I think especially if you look at Pinterest product feeds, like you're seeing all kinds of products there. If you're going to share your image yourself, you're going to share it through Tailwind or manually or however you want to do it, you can absolutely create a couple of different images for that product. And we're going to talk about the formula that can help you kind of increase your reach and grow a new audience as well, and allow you to, in a very helpful, non kind of spammy way, share more than just one or two images per product or blog post. Just always got to have to keep in mind, like, what is this useful to people? Because frankly, what happened is, in February, it was announced, okay, we want fresh pins, and a fresh pin is a new image on Pinterest.
Right.
And so what people did, and like, it's human nature, right? We heard that and we're like, oh, I should make 40 images for this one blog post. And so people did. And then it started, creating a really poor user experience when you did a search and all 40 pins were like Jeff's face going to the same blog post.
It would break Pinterest. It would break Pinterest. We'd say that.
No, it wouldn't. But yeah, so now they're just kind of refining the direction that they're giving us, trying to help us help ourselves and also help make it a better platform. Because I think that's another thing. I was talking to Jillian of Milo Tree yesterday on her Blogger Genius podcast. And I love talking to her. And we were just talking about, like, find that intersection of what is useful to you, what is useful to Pinterest, what is useful to the user. And that's where you find your success. So everything needs to go through that kind of filter of, does this feel a little bit icky? Okay, then don't do it. Right? Is this going to potentially look spammy? Don't do it. Is this actually helpful? Like, is providing this additional context with another image, is that actually helpful to somebody? If so, like, yeah, do it. You can trust yourself on that.
So that makes sense for, like, the questions we've had about, like, the product stuff, like having it, because it does make sense to see multiple images and different angles of something you're going to buy. I mean, you see it on Amazon that, you click through and you see all the different images of if you're going to buy something. If I'm buying electronic things, it shows me the back. I mean, all that stuff makes sense. And so that helps your audience on Pinterest is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and then the idea of kind of giving a different context to it is something we've talked about a lot. So we always go back to our garden cherry bourbon smash drink, right? That's right. We always do. So if you can present it as, okay, here's a recipe for a garden cherry bourbon smash, right? That's your kind of your default presentation of this content on Pinterest. But then you can sit back and think, all right, who else? Like, aside from this kind of general search for this particular drink, how else could you frame this content in a way that it would appeal to different people and would show up in a different search? So you're not just piling on for the sake of quantity and to try to kind of sneak in a little bit more distribution for your content. You're actually trying to reach new people. So the examples that we always use are, okay, well, think about an audience who wants to impress their friends over the holidays, right? So that idea that the text you might use on your image could be something like a holiday cocktail to wow your friends, right? Right. Or a cocktail recipe plus a ladies' night in, the perfect cocktail for a girls' night in. Just think about different situations, different interests that your product or your idea or your service would be useful for.
Right. So one would be like if you could, cocktails that you could drink through a straw under your mask. So, I mean, that would be a good...
That's very topical and very appropriate for today.
So,
yes.
A question, this is from Maggie. She has this question because I think a lot of people are asking this. And she asks, so how often do you share to your number? Because we mentioned share to your most important and more relevant board first. Do you do it once a week, once a month, or what? I mean, I know there's a lot of question, and I know you're probably going to say it depends, but what would you say to this?
I think we're talking about the same image to the same board.
Let's
right, and that. Okay, we'll just assume that. That was something that was kind of popularized a couple years ago with Board Booster. So, like, just cranking out the same image to the same board over and over again, and it did kind of work then. It doesn't work so well now, and it can actually get you in trouble. So while you can share the same pin to the same board, you want a lot more time in between than a day, a week, or even a month. So
really,
with
so you want to go
Smart
longer than a month, is what you're saying?
Yeah, if you're saving to the same board, like the same image to the same board, you want a lot more time in between. It may be logical to do that like seasonally or annually even, and having a scheduler like Tailwind that allows you to just say, okay, next year I want this one to go out, right? Like using Smart Loop to just say, space these out for me a lot can be really effective, but you definitely don't want to do once a day, a week, or a month.
Gotcha.
It's too much.
Gotcha.
And it's
To
not
the
going to
same
help.
board. To the same
Yeah.
board. You're saying to the same
Yeah, to
board.
the same board. Right. Yeah.
So
If
what
you're
if you're
going to
going
share
to a
to
different board?
several.
Does it like, let's say you had,
Yeah.
so for example, let me give you an example. So I have
Okay.
you know, the top 10 bloggers for 2020. I have an article about that, whatever. And I have a
Okay.
social media board, I have a blogging tips board, and I have, you know, a WordPress board. I don't know, something like that. And
Okay.
those are
Yeah.
different levels of relevance, you know. So
Sure.
should the first day I share it to my, you know, social media board, how long should I wait before I share it to those other boards? Is there a good rule of thumb for that, or what would you say?
Yeah. So inside of Tailwind, we have interval pinning that
Mm-hmm.
is set up specifically for that purpose. So when you have a pin and you know what you want to share it to a couple of different relevant boards, and the default interval now is 7 days.
Cool.
So I wouldn't go any less than that. I'm hearing some people saying they're having better success a little bit longer out, which kind of makes sense with other things we've seen. So you might want to go at least, definitely at least a week.
So just to clarify, from Sally Howe, because she's watching
Hey,
from the UK.
Sally.
She goes, pinning new pins then by creating a different graphic for the same URL would be best practice.
I think with a caveat, right? So not just making a new pin for the sake of like just moving your text around or like
Right.
moving your image a pixel, but yeah, if you have a pin, like for example, if you have a gift guide that does really well every year, it absolutely makes sense to make a brand new image for that pin for this year, right? And maybe put 2020 on it, or whatever you need to do to make it look more relevant. Maybe it's a style that looks a bit more modern that you want to use. But yeah, ultimately, a new image is probably going to do better than just resharing an older image. And I think what people thought they heard when we last talked, Jeff, is that you can't, right? And the fact is, you can still do a lot of these things, but just know that even though there will be some results, like you won't get the best results, right?
Right. And it takes a while sometimes.
But that doesn't, yeah, and it doesn't mean there's no benefit to some of these other things like sharing to more than one board or creating alternate images. You just don't want to go overboard.
Yes.
And create too much.
Pinterest in moderation.
That's not helpful.
Which moderation should be
everything in moderation.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's see. We had some other questions.
Okay.
So could you use, so for example, you talked about really spacing this out, and I like the idea because we're talking about repurposing, and a lot of times this is the time of year where a lot of guides are coming out, a lot of content about a lot of seasonal content that comes out. This would this be a spot where you could use Smart Loop really smartly? Because I like to create, when I'm creating something that's seasonal, go ahead and create it for next year because you know it's going to hit again.
Yeah.
They're not going to cancel
Absolutely.
Christmas, and so using Smart Loop in that, hopefully they don't cancel Christmas. But using Smart Loop in that way makes sense. And is that probably the best way for seasonal stuff? That's where Smart Loop can really like stand out and help you.
Yeah, or even like, so that's an annual thing. Yeah, I think really leaning into seasonal, like we know seasonal events and everyday moments, like leaning into those in your creative and in your copy can increase your conversions by 20%. Now that one I do remember. So thinking about like this time of year, and you can use Pinterest trends for this too, right? So this time of year, my overall outfits are probably going to take off. I mean, that's a terrible example, but you can look at that now and then plan out for like next March when they start to take off, right? Just schedule them out now. Well, if you have a little bit of downtime, which maybe you do, maybe you don't, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah.
And the other thing, so we talked about this, we've talked about this quite a bit, is like, using the trends to like, you talked about the Bourbon Smash, how to make it go to different categories and that formula you talked about. One of the things, you don't want to try to stuff something that doesn't make sense for your business just to hit a seasonal thing, right? I mean, I'm not going to write, I mean, because I just know some of the marketers are going, if this is trending, green smoothies, how can I make my, my how to clean up my kids' room
TikTok
of green
ads.
Smoothie. Yeah. Keto cleanup tips. No, that doesn't work. So yeah.
No, it doesn't work. Yeah, and I think just to realize that there's a spectrum, right? So it's not all or nothing. So the freshest, which has the potential for the most distribution. And again, it's not set in stone, right? There are so many variables that go into it, but potentially the most distribution is going to be on a new image for a new URL, right? That's what Pinterest wants. That's what people are responding to when they, according to Pinterest and the studies they've done. Next to that is going to be like a new image for an existing URL with new context on your pin and a new title and description, right? After that, we've got a new image for an existing URL, like maybe your image that you put out originally just didn't do that great, and you think, well, maybe if I like completely change the colors up or change the style, it will do better. Like that can work, right? But it's like we're kind of heading down the ladder of what's fresh, and then like the least fresh and possibly the least return on your investment is going to be resharing pins that have already been on Pinterest. Right. But still saying like the least fresh or less distribution doesn't mean no distribution, no benefit. So like it's not an all or nothing for sure.
Gotcha.
Unless you're spammy, then it's nothing. Right? Unless you're just completely overdoing it, and that's just bad.
Yeah, you don't want to be spammy at all. So that's important safety tip from Elisa.
Yeah, but we know that.
So one of the questions, let me see here. This was a good one. So, because I know a lot of people have this question as well. So, is it worth sharing to group boards? If not, should we ditch them?
Oh yeah, I love this question. So the question comes up if you're not aware, because Pinterest created group boards for people to actually collaborate on. But as marketers, of course, we had to figure out a way to make it work for us. So what we realized is that when we shared our content into a group board, it would then become available to all the followers of all the other members of that group board. So it could really increase your distribution. And then Pinterest is like, no, that's not why we built this. Right. We wanted like actual interaction in there. So they don't, in that way, they do not any longer increase your distribution. Okay, so they're mostly going to be seen to the members of that group board. Now, where they can still work is if the members of your group board are still active in there and they are actually sharing. Like if you're in a good niche group board and everyone's really interested in your content and they tend to share it, then it can still work. Otherwise, no. Right. So what you want to do is you can go into Tailwind and you can look at your board insights and see which ones are most active. And then from your board insights in Tailwind, like click through so you can see what your pins are doing, and sort by date so you can see, is this engagement you're seeing that looks really good from years ago, or is it more recent? Right. And you can, it might have been from 4 years ago. You can also look in Pinterest analytics to your group boards and see how they're going in there. Okay.
Good advice there from Elisa. Let me see any other questions. Somebody said my volume's down. Is my volume down to you? Does it sound soft? Okay. I don't know. All right. So the other question, since we've this is a perfect one that I think we can. Did you have a formula you wanted to share, or did you already talk about the bourbon? You talked about the bourbon smash. Is that what you wanted to talk about? Yeah. The formula. Yep. Okay. So I want to bring up this question because this is going to go right into our repurposing, and let me see here. Here we go. Here it is. If you have a TikTok account, is it a good practice to pin from a platform? How well do those pins do? So I have seen
you should say that.
Yeah, I have seen these for quite a while, and we've talked about this a little bit, but I think this is a great question because they seem to be everywhere. I mean, I don't know about you, but they're all over my feed. Yeah,
I've noticed that too, and I think, didn't we talk about that with Holly Homer a little bit? Was it Holly we talked about? No,
it may have been
Amy. It was Amy.
Because she gets really good engagement. Now, she does a lot of, I loved how she talked about hands and pans. That's what her hands and pans
like,
videos.
What are you saying?
And, and so she gets really good engagement as video pins, as video pins. But I was wanting to know your thoughts. Is it worth sharing TikTok videos on Pinterest? Because that is repurposing.
And I was talking to, like I said, I was talking to Jillian yesterday, and she said that, she has somebody in her group who was talking about how great TikTok videos are doing for them on Pinterest in terms of impressions, but not in terms of clicks. So I think what we really have to kind of dig into is if they're useful, like how? What do we have to do to them to make them useful? Because I think they can be.
So, I think it's a great point. What is your end goal? If you're for clicks, probably not. If you're wanting to grow your account, it might help engagement-wise. You could also repurpose them as maybe story pins. I think that could work. And I'd also wanted to know, since you're creating that content, and also I think if you actually do get a click over from that video, doesn't it go into the TikTok account? I'm not sure. If you want to grow your TikTok that way.
Well, I honestly don't know, because what I have done
never click on them, so I don't know.
Right. I have downloaded them.
Right.
So I have it as edited on TikTok, and I save it to my phone, and then I upload it from there. So then I can put the link I want on it.
Trona has a great point, because this is the thing that I was going to bring up too. Is she goes, I share all of my clients' Instagram videos to Pinterest, and they do amazingly well. Just shape them for Pinterest. So I think that's genius, Trona, because I think, and I think this may work for TikTok too. One of the things that I don't like about TikTok is they have that TikTok logo. Now, TikTok makes it really easy to share that over there, and I haven't tested it, and I don't 100% know if it helps having that TikTok logo and people are drawn to that to watch it because they love TikTok, or would it be better to take that video you've already created and downloaded to your phone and uploaded it as a video pin? Since you've already created it, that would be repurposing. So I don't know. I would love to test that. But I think your idea of repurposing your clients' Instagram videos to Pinterest does really well. So that's one of the things is that I think a lot of people forget, like, all those tools that you can use to create Instagram stories and videos with, those can be used to make great video pins. So that's a great way to repurpose your content from other platforms over there. Just do what Trona is doing, is really optimizing that for Pinterest. She knows what works on Pinterest. She's not going to have all these gazillion hashtags and just copy and paste it over. She's optimizing it for Pinterest. So I think that's genius.
Right. Yeah. So Jeff, if you had a Square video and you wanted to reuse it on Pinterest, I mean, you can do Square video on Pinterest. Yeah. But is there an easy way? Like, what's your favorite way to add something underneath the video so you can put text on the image and then have so you're creating like a 2x3 pin or taller? You know what I'm talking about?
There's tons of different tools. You can actually use Instagram tools to do a lot of that stuff. In fact, I know a lot of people. The rough, for a while on Instagram, it was kind of the polished look for stories. That's kind of not, Shalene Johnson talks about this a lot. She'll use just the tools on Instagram because those perform better than something fancy that her team will make on using a Premiere or something. So you can use those tools to create it as well. So I would use something like that. You can use something like in video can create some stuff and some other things. You can add those. But for a long time I was like, nah, if you can make a video, don't use Square. But Squares, they work. If I had to create one from scratch, I'd try to make it, the tall portrait 2x3, ratio that Pinterest recommends. But if I have one and I just need to repurpose it, I would use that Square video because they do really well. In fact, I've been seeing even 16:9 promoted pins from like HBO Now and some other places that are promoting those videos on Pinterest, and they're doing well. They're not even doing Square like I thought they would. They're using just like the 16:9, and more I've been seeing those pop up as well. So I don't know. I figured that if they weren't working, they wouldn't be doing it. But
I wonder if those are meant to be full width, and then
they're full width, but they're 16:9. They're not this full square. Yeah, it's just really odd, but they're doing it.
So you know how sometimes you have like a video on top and then like a box
still image on bottom
underneath. Yeah. So I was thinking maybe that would be something to try. And if you wanted to do that, what's the easiest way to do that?
I would use a tool like Wave, InVideo, Promo. If you have Premiere or Premiere Elements, you could probably do it that way too. So it's just all you have to do is create the 2x3, drop your Square video on top or bottom, and then put your image on top of that. It's pretty easy. I like it. Okay. I really like the ones that have like the title in the middle that do a kind of a break. There's some really cool things you can do, but I like the mix of video and still. I just think those are kind of cool. Too. So, but really test it. It all depends on what. Sometimes maybe since you already have that one video, post that as just a video. Then make a pin that has both images, like the the video at top and then the still image at the bottom, and test that and see if that works. See if it works if you have a border. There's a lot of Light Tricks, one of my favorite places for creating Instagram stories. They have some great tools where you can do some really cool borders and some really cool transitions between those videos. I would look at those as well. So, I mean, there's all sorts of those apps on your phone. You can download those and upload them as a pin. You need to test those out, because I think
I have them all on my phone. I've never used them.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about TikTok videos and how to make them useful. You mentioned real quickly, like using them as part of a story. And I think that is very, very smart, right? Because then you can add more context with other pages. And I think that's key, right? Usually on TikTok, you're not going to have you're not going to have, what's the word I'm looking for? Captions. Whereas on Pinterest, they're really useful. And so, like, just looking at a TikTok video is probably not going to give you enough context to get people to take the action that you want, whether it's a click or whatever. I have like one click on on one of my painting. No, I take it back. I have 3 clicks.
There you go. See,
I made it to the big time now. I don't really care, but I'm also getting the views I'm getting are like 16 seconds, 8 seconds, 9 seconds. So short is good, right? We all like short because that means we can do less, but there's no context on these. So I would say add some context.
Yeah. And also I want to pull up this. This is from Charlene says this. She goes, a square videos stand out lately. We did a couple and got a lot of clicks. Here's one thing that I like about, and I haven't done deep analysis on this, but in my mind it works, so I'm saying it, is that if you have a square video that does well, I would throw some money behind it. And here's why. Because a promoted video pin, it loads on the mobile device, it loads your landing page underneath that square video. If you promote a square video, you have way more real estate than one of the tall pins where it loads underneath there. So to me, it makes a lot of sense to promote a square video. Make sure your landing page is optimized with the what you want them to do at the very, very top. The button's right there underneath that video, and look at it that way. Because of the real estate thing, the way promoted video pins work, to me that just gives you more of the space to draw them into your offer or your opt-in or whatever. So that's what I'm kind of testing right now, and I think that's really, really cool.
That's very interesting. In fact, we have some video pins, some square video pins that we're promoting on Pinterest as well. And one of them especially is doing really well. And I think part of it is how animated the person is on the opening shot. That and their captions under it. And there's like a big wow. It's doing really well.
Here's a great idea. This is from Cecilia, says, I've done hyperlapse, very fast speed. They get a lot of attention that stand out from the oceans of pins. See, that's what I love about video pins, and I it's a love-hate thing because I really want the click. But I've seen when we did our test, a lot of people would, when they're doing organic video pins, they're using an arrow, like an animated arrow, to point to those 3 dots and say, save it in the description. This is something I learned from, we just said her name, Amy Licurdo, that she does. She was like do a call to action because it's, and Jennifer Priest has said the same thing. It's like you have to. They're not used to doing this. They're not used to doing it. It works different than just tapping and going. So you have to educate them if you want to get those clicks. So, but for standing out, that's a great idea, Cecilia, about the hyperlapse video. I like that idea. Yeah.
Okay, so use them as part of a story. We already talked about a little bit about tips for traffic. Yep, absolutely. Tell them what to do. So let's talk a little bit more about Instagram repurposing. We talked about square videos. So if you're using square video on Instagram, that's awesome. But images too. So sometimes our Instagram images, we might think, it's not going to make a great pin. But what I was thinking, and I'm a little biased, but put those images into Tailwind Create, right? And then see what you can do with them in there.
Oh, that is a good idea for repurposing it too.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's your own image, so it's not going to look like anybody else's on Pinterest. So if there's a way to tie it to your content, or even send people to your Instagram account from there if you want to, like you could add a quote on it. You could add a tip from whatever the content is. And the dog is getting in on the show here.
That's right. This is what live video is, folks. So, So yeah, so I think that's awesome. That's a genius idea to drag your uploaded video or your one you're using for your Instagram post there. One of my pet peeves of people who bring in stuff like automatically from Instagram, and it's formatted for Instagram, and it's got all that junky, a lot of times use the 30 hashtags, and it just doesn't work right. So if you're gonna do it, make sure you're optimizing it, because there are tools that'll just bring it all in automatically. I optimize it for that. You got half of it done already. You got the image, so take the time and clean up that description and make sure the title's right and all that kind of stuff, and it makes sense to the Pinterest audience.
Yeah. There's another one that's right inside of Tailwind that I think a lot of people may not notice. There's so much to think about. But that is when you schedule your pins out, you can also send the post to Facebook. And that doesn't mean you're sending your pin to Facebook. It means that Tailwind will go to your content, pull out the Facebook optimized image, and share that on Facebook for you at the same time. So it'll happen when your pin goes out. It will also go to Facebook, which is like 2 for 1. Yeah, save a little time.
Right. So there's a great question, and this is one. I'm glad Michael asked this because I wanted to talk about this. He goes, "What is the best CTA to use for Pinterest?" So that is, we could do a whole show on different. There's not one size fits all, but there's some best practices. So, what would you say for creating a great? There's not a best one because it depends on your niche, your content, your image, your pin. But what are one of the things you want to make sure you have one, because a lot of people don't have one. They're doing a text overlay, and also you want to make it legible and big enough that people can see it. Like we've seen really good success with arrows, like pointing to the call to action. What are some other thoughts, Elisa?
Yeah, so I would say test whether something really direct, like buy now, does better than something really kind of subtle and kind of inspirational, like find your look, right? You have so many different directions you can go in. I wouldn't do anything like click here, right? Because that's not useful at all and doesn't really set them up for what to do when they get to your site. So I think that's another thing too. Sometimes people feel like, well, I get traffic, but I'm not getting conversions. And that really, it ends on your site, but it's going to start on Pinterest, where you tell people like what you want them to do when they get there.
And make sure make sure the call to action, when they do go to your page, that they know there's no disconnect, that they know that they've landed in the right spot, so they won't bounce really quick.
Make sure it's in really scripty font too.
Yeah, she's saying that with a smile on her face for you guys listening, because she knows that's my pet peeve. So we're talking about repurposing, so we don't want to let you guys forget about these great templates that Tailwind has created. They're absolutely free. Go to bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit. Get those, get started, start creating some content. When you're creating those, and you can use Tailwind Create to do this, go ahead and create a couple extra ones. And like if you're doing like holiday content, schedule them for next year. Get ahead of the game. That's what I love to do. And because I always forget about it, and I go look, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm already ahead. I'm a winner. So So use that one. That time. Go ahead.
I feel like some people, maybe when we start with a new network, like we're just starting on Pinterest, they start with today's content, right? But you may have this huge backlog of content that's still relevant and still useful to people on your website that you have never pinned. So like really think about that. Have I done it? And if I've done it, were they really good pinnable images or were they just whatever was on the page? Is it worth going back through there and making really good pinnable images? And I would really love to see some people go back through their Instagram content, pull out their images, pull out their videos, and remake them for Pinterest, because I think that could really work well. So if anybody does that, let us know. Like, we want to hear about it.
Right. So I want to talk more about, we've talked about we need to repurpose, and we've talked about Instagram, TikTok. So one of the things is, if you mentioned your older content just now. You talked about like what, you may have some stuff already, but also think about that formula that Lisa talked about. We've talked about quite a few times on the show, is, taking something and doing a new spin on it, you know. And in this email that Lalisa just sent out, she talked about what to plan for what's coming up. If so, Christmas is pretty much done. I mean, I say that, but
well,
I mean, you know,
all right.
So, but I wanted to think about that formula in some of these ways. So, you know, upcoming content, you know, spring breaks coming, spring cleaning, gardening ideas, spring travel ideas, organization, and St. Patrick's Day. So I was doing some research, I'll just tell you, for a client who's a furniture company, and I was thinking of your formula, right, about how the best way to do this. And I'm like, okay, they sell furniture, and I can't, like, you know, I can't try to shoehorn something in to St. Patrick's Day, you know, I just couldn't think of anything. But I thought about spring cleaning. Like, they could write an article about how to, you know, clean furniture as you're getting ready to, you know, get ready for the spring. You know, how to spring clean your furniture. You know, that could be something that would fit into that with their existing content that they could repurpose in that way. So it doesn't have, you don't have to break your brain on some of this stuff. You can actually just think of what naturally, like, I knew that, you know, gardening ideas, not going to work for this furniture company. There's not really a good way, unless they were selling outdoor furniture, that it would work. Yeah. But, you know, I could see how spring cleaning, because people how do I clean wood furniture? Like, some people may not. Is there a natural way to clean wood furniture? How do you repair, you know, in your spring cleaning, a broken whatever? So there's ways that you can think about this, that you can still reuse and repurpose your content. Sorry, I went on a rant there. But anyway.
No, I'm glad you did. And I'm going to share the PDF that has that formula in it. Let's see. We'll take off the
Yeah, it's a great thing. Just to keep even though it's about a bourbon smash, it's a really great idea to kind of get your brain working. You don't have to fit all those things, but if you see a trend that's coming, or you're using like trends.pinterest.com and seeing something in there, you're like, oh, I have an article that I wrote last year that I could just update a little bit, and it's ready to go. And I could create a new pin image from it using a tool like Pinterest Tailwind Create, and boom, I'm done. So
I think, and that's important too, right? Like, updating your content, Google likes that too. So if you update your blog post so that it fits better with the pin, Pinterest is going to like it, readers are going to like it, Google's going to like it, everybody's happy. So it's kind of a win all around. And that PDF also has a list of different ideas. So like Jeff was saying, these certain holidays are coming up, but there are also kind of some seasonal agnostic things that you can look at as well. And then also play into the seasons, because that way you can kind of help level off those dips that we sometimes see in Pinterest traffic certain seasons. Right.
Well, Leslie says this: the light bulb just went off for me. Some content I can repurpose for a client. Thanks, Jeff. Hey, my work here is done. Yay. I can just go. I'll see you. One show, I helped one person. That's all done. So thank you, Leslie, for that. But but go ahead. I'm excited.
Well, okay. So I wanted to. You should be. This is great. So one thing that's really exciting to me every month, doing the Tailwind templates. So I don't design them anymore. Kier does them. She's a great designer at Tailwind. But I do come up with the ideas for them, and I don't have to make them up, because Pinterest is sharing all this great information with us. We have Tailwind trends, but they also are sharing out updates in community about what people are searching for this week. Mm-hmm. And then we had one specially for this time of year that was extra special and helpful. So I got some cool tips. Can I share those?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. So one that I think, if you're doing it, you're not sharing it on Pinterest, like, big fail would be hot chocolate bombs.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you're,
there's some TikTok videos about that too. Yeah.
They're everywhere. They're so much fun to watch. And I wanted to address what you said about, like, for Christmas season or holiday season, like, it's done, it's over. It's not. So one of the reasons I feel confident saying that is that I was talking to my Pinterest ad rep, I think last year, and this time of year can be pretty expensive on Pinterest ads, because the auction pressure is just so high with all the big brands buying up all the space. So I was like, all right, so when is this going to get better? And the answer is December 26th. So those big brands are spending all the way up until the actual day itself. And I don't know how they deliver. So are you saying
there's some bargains that are going to happen on the 27th? Like,
not
for ad buy?
necessarily.
Okay.
Yes, ad buy will happen on the 26th. So, I mean, if they're spending money on it, they obviously can't ship and get it to you if you see it on Pinterest on the 23rd or 24th. But I think there's also some value in just getting it in front of people. Like, okay, maybe they don't buy it this year because they can't get it in time, but they save it to their board and they buy it next year. I know that's like a long game, but I think sometimes it's beneficial to think that way.
So you may got me thinking too. So if you do have, let's say you have an Etsy store or you have a Shopify store. This is just, and I don't know if this is possible, but what if you could sell on those dates where it's too late to ship and all that kind of stuff, like gift certificates? Like I would think to hit that hard, right?
Yeah.
Stuff where, every other place can't ship right now. They're even saying, I mean, they're warning during football games, like, make sure that you ship now. And that was before Thanksgiving. So
yeah,
how can you guys create, gift certificate, pins? I don't know. I'm just thinking like, how can you kind of leverage that to
last minute gifts?
Yeah. Last minute gift guide. Ooh. That's a good one. Shh, don't rewind. Take that away. Don't let anybody else know.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So some more trends that I wanted to talk about. Okay. There's a 9x increase. I think it's week over week, month over month on DIY home cleaning. So if you're a blogger in that space and maybe you have an article about, how to clean your house in 15 minutes a day, this is probably your time. So what's really interesting when we get these search terms to actually take them and go into Pinterest, enter them in and see what comes up. So what you're going to get is not a lot of pins that say right on them DIY home cleaning. So I think we should try it. I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna enter in DIY home cleaning.
Just in the Pinterest search is what you're doing.
Yep, that's it. Everybody can do this. Okay, so there's one DIY homemade window cleaner recipes, how to remove grease from your wood cabinets, mind-blowing bathroom cleaning hacks, right? So Pinterest, even though yes, it's a search engine, it's really a visual discovery engine.
Right.
So they typically take what we use for keywords, and expand on them. But because DIY home cleaning is such kind of a broad term, it's going to pull up all these related things too. So that doesn't mean you're stuck with DIY home cleaning as a keyword. Like, go do the search, see what else is showing up. Do you have anything like that?
Right.
Could you write something like that?
And see what the interests are coming up too. Like if there's some ideas at the top where you could get some more of those, what are called like, the long tail keywords, like DIY home cleaning for furniture, like I was talking about earlier. That might be something to look at as well. So look at those interests that are shown in those little color. I don't even know. Do the colors mean anything? I don't even know at the top.
It kind of looks like it's the dominant color in that search result. So if you click on one, if it's purple, you'll probably notice a lot of purple on that page. That was something Jennifer Priest brought up, and it does seem to be
true.
The way it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I hope I say this right. It's Shoshi asked, what about the links to the Pinterest templates? So, let me pull that up for you. Do not forget, because we're running close to our show time, go to bit.ly TW Pinterest Toolkit, bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit, all lowercase, all smashed together, to go get those December brand spanking new templates. They're awesome.
Yes, they are. Good job, Kier. All right, so we have some other interesting trends that are popping up right about now. We have guest cottage, right? So I think, Jeff, you can relate to this because your kids
I have all the
came
guest
home for the
cottages
holidays.
in my mansion.
No, because you had your son came home from college.
Oh, yeah.
And
we stuck him in the camper because we didn't get his test back. Yeah.
See, if you'd had a guest cottage, that would have been amazing.
That would have been awesome. I'll get right on that.
So I think that, I'm sure you will. He'll appreciate that. But that seems to be appropriate for this time, right? If you want to have company, you probably don't want to be breathing the same air as them. Yeah.
Right.
Guest cottage. Okay. 12x increase in searches for faux fireplace mantles. So a little DIY going on here. Okay. Here's one that's not Well, it makes sense, but it's not super seasonal. 14x increase in inspirational quotes positive. Okay, so remember
So
we were
let's talk
talking
about
about
that,
taking
because those.
your Instagram? Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a question, because I know I saw this and I was wondering, because to me, inspirational quotes is almost, having a board for that or pinning that kind of content is kind of like story pins. It's there to build your brand. It doesn't really do anything for links back to your site. Would you say that?
I would have a hard time ever posting a quote just for the sake of awareness. I
Right.
would want it to go back to something. So I would want it to be related to the content. So if you had a blog post about like the power of mastermind groups, that you might have a quote about lifting other people up, right?
Right.
So the person who's interested in that concept would likely be interested in your content as well.
But quotes in general don't get many clicks back, do they?
I am not sure.
I don't. I thought one time I researched, but
yeah, it's. I can see why they might not, but I think there are things you could do. So if you could have the quote, but then you also have a CTA, right?
Right.
Make this work in your life, right? And then your title, of course, is also really prominent. So you could also make that a reason to click through.
I know they get a lot of repins. I just didn't know if there's that many clicks to it. So
I think the volume of repins you get, you could definitely do something about that traffic.
Cool.
So, 25x increase in Christmas wish lists for teens. Because nobody knows what to buy the kids.
That's right. So, yeah, exactly. They don't.
Yeah.
So Jennifer Laura says a list of quotes.
Okay.
She says list of quotes.
List of quotes?
Yeah. They drive traffic, I guess. So, good idea.
Alrighty. Cool. Okay, so then Pinterest gave us some information about checkouts, like what people are actually buying as they click through from Pinterest, and one of them is earmuffs. So apparently they're in this year, 125% increase in checkouts for earmuffs, and 175 for checkouts for gloves and mittens.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Checkouts for blankets, and then some of the other things that were trending. So we always try to include some education pin templates, and it has been so hard this year because a lot of kids aren't in school, and the search trends you think would be happening aren't. So, but what I did find were just a couple, like study hacks trending up, and then school outfits for winter. So it could be maybe that. Okay, we didn't do a lot of back to school shopping because maybe a lot of schools weren't open, but now they're starting to open up and the kids have outgrown everything.
That could be it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then for travel too, there was RV travel. And that's just because I know like sales of RVs are up, rentals of RVs are up as people are trying to find a safer way to get out of town. So if you have anything about that, and also like weekend getaway ideas, we're not investing in planning big trips like months in advance. We're more like, okay, now's a good time to go. Where can I go that's not too far away?
Right.
So anything like that. And when we do the templates, they're as much about these trends and what we should be pinning right now as they are about the design. So yeah, if you haven't grabbed them before, they always have on the pin image itself, which you can move off and get rid of, like why we chose this topic.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. They're not in Create. They're not just in the templates. They're not just throwing those out willy nilly because they look nice. But there's a method behind the madness that Elisa is in charge of over there. So don't forget to go to bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit and check that out. Make sure you go download that before they go away at the end of this year. I mean, this year.
Yeah.
But
actually, no, they're not going to go away.
They're not going away, but I like to say it. So I wanted to bring up this comment from Joanne. She goes, for Pinterest Tailwind, I got 100K visitors in a week. I schedule at least 20 pins a day, and it worked so well. So thank you for using Tailwind, Joanne. I'd love to know, let us know in the comments what niche it is, because I'd really like to know how, what are your pinning and where we can find you, because I want to check that out. But with that, do not
I want to go see how you're repurposing.
Yes, we want to see how you're doing that.
I appreciate everybody's ideas too. Yeah.
Yes, appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for joining us every other week as we go through this crazy time together. But all the great stuff. You guys are such a great community, talking even in the comments. I'm sorry we can't bring all the comments up because they're really good. You guys take care of each other. You ask so great questions for each show that we do. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming. You know, you could spend your time anywhere and you spend it with us. We really do appreciate that. But don't forget our templates at bit.ly/TW Pinterest Toolkit. And with that, Elisa, as always, I'll let you have the last word.
Okay, my last word is I just booked an Etsy educator, so like an Etsy Pinterest specialist, to come on the show in January. So that's pretty exciting. And what I'd like to know is, and we're trying to get some other special e-commerce e-commerce speakers, that they'll be a gift to us. But I'd be interested to know what else can we talk about that would be helpful to you. So let us know.
Yes. Thank you guys. See you guys.